going back to something you said about, growing up as a Jersey girl, it took you a while to break into radio. So
It
if you
did.
can kind of outline that, because, and I know you've met these people just like I met these people. At
Yeah.
one point when I broke in, I was of this same mindset of, I'm just going to walk into a radio station. They're going to gift me a job. And inside of 2 weeks, I'm going to be, and I know I'm dating myself here, but people
Mhm.
will remember the name. I'm going to be Casey Kasem, or I'm
Right.
going to be, for the sake of argument, Rush Limbaugh, or whatever your political stance is, that you're
Right.
automatically going to be just given that opportunity. And you and
How
I
can you
both
not
know.
see that? Yeah. And we both, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter how much of an untapped gold mine you are. If they don't see the value in you, there's nothing that you can do. So for me, at the time I got my job in 2004, it was a very specific set of circumstances. I had some radio experience prior. I had worked in radio in Augusta, Georgia. I had in the 90s, I moved to New York. My ex husband did his residency at Bellevue, and I tried in every possible way to break into music in Manhattan. And everyone was like, I don't know, what's this radio station in Georgia? I don't know who you are. I could not break in. So by the time we moved out here in 2001, and I had my second child in 2003. And being a stay at home mom, is fine for so many, and it's a very satisfying and validating lifestyle, and I love being a mother. And anybody who looks at my social media will know, if you came into my house, and there are pictures of my sons everywhere. So being a mother is an incredibly important thing to me. My relationship with my children is the most important thing. However, I needed something more than just being the doctor's wife and being a mother, because I needed more. And so there was an incident on KNRK in 2004, when at the time it was more like your, it was, what was even, it was 94.7. It was NRK. It was like really aggro with a lot of Limp Bizkit and, those kind of bands. And they had the morning shock jock, and his name was Marconi. And one morning, Marconi and his producer thought it was a great idea to play the audio of the Nicholas Berg beheading tape and make fun of it. And I mean, instead of bringing in a stripper that morning, because what they were doing was trying to compete with KUFO, which was at that time carrying Howard Stern in the morning. So that they were trying to compete directly like that. And as well as I, that the
That
wrong
didn't
people
go
are in
over
charge
well.
of radio. The wrong people are in charge of radio, because you don't compete with your nearest competitor by sounding exactly like them. You're supposed to sound different from them. Give the audience something different. Give them a reason to come to you. So that morning, they decided they played the Nicholas Berg beheading tape. The audience was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" and demanded they get fired. So they were fired immediately. And then Mark Hamilton, the program director, decided to clean slate, automate the station, completely change the format, because he had, at least, I have a lot of bad things to say about him, but he had the foresight to look at the radio landscape in Portland and say, what isn't being played here? How is this audience not being served? There is not a decent alternative radio station here. There's Kink, but Kink is all over the map, and you
Right.
can't pinhole them. So he was like, no one's playing classic alternative. There are all of these cool bands breaking, because 2004, think about, we had Franz Ferdinand was breaking, the Killers were breaking, Snow Patrol, Muse. So there was a lot of great music all of a sudden after the very early 2000s, which was all of those screamo bands and all of the new metal shit.
It was all the
And
post grunge stuff.
oh, it was awful, just terrible. Trapped, you know. So, all of that shit. So Mark was like, where can I hear the Smiths on the radio in Portland? And the answer was nowhere. Where can I hear The Cure? Where can I hear Depeche Mode? Nowhere was the answer. And where, I want to hear the Smiths, but then I also want to hear, this new song from the Killers. Where can I hear that? Nowhere. So he decided to create that destination. So we flipped the format, and for, weeks, it was automated, no DJs, everyone was gone. And every so often you would hear this message from him saying, we're rebuilding this station with your input. And I was like, well, someday they're going to put humans back on the air. So I emailed him And I did have a voiceover demo at the time because I was doing some voiceover work. And he responded, which I was shocked to begin, because I figured he was being, just inundated. He said, "Your voice is great, but I'm not looking for just a voice. I need someone who's passionate and knowledgeable about alternative music." And I wrote back and I said, "If you give me 15 minutes, you will see that I am that person." He was like, "Fine, I'll give you 15 minutes." So I went in and met him, and I walked into his office, and hanging on the wall was a gold record for The Color and the Shape by the Foo Fighters, and a picture on his desk of him with Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins and Nate Mendel of the Foo Fighters. And I was like, this job is mine now. Because all I had to tell him was how I knew the Foo Fighters. So I told him the story of how I met the Foo Fighters, which is in my pinned tweet on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks. And instead of 15 minutes, we ended up talking for an hour. He told me he had like a dentist appointment or something and he had to bolt after 15 minutes. Lie. That's what they tell you if they want to kick you out. He did not want to kick me out. And then he brought in the VP of programming, Clark Ryan, and he introduced me. And he's like, and anybody who lives in Portland knows Mark Hamilton's English accent. He's like, "Right, this is Tara, and she wants to work here." And Clark goes, "Okay, great. What do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to do your midday." And they were like, "Great." So they gave me 2 nights of audition time, and they put me on it from midnight to 3 so that I would, in case I was terrible. And after the first night, Mark called me. He was like, "You sound great, but I also was doing that sort of just front sell, back sell thing that I had been taught at my very first radio job." And he was like, "I don't want you talking over the intros, but I do want you, add some more of you. I want to hear, it's okay for you to say you love a song. It's okay for you to say you saw this band and it was the greatest show. Please, I want to hear you. Imagine you're sitting at a bar talking to someone about music. That's what I want."
Just remember, when you do, you got to hit the post.
Right. But he didn't want us talking over the intros either. We didn't have to worry about hitting the post.
Right.
Which was freedom. But, you're not going to talk for 11 minutes and then play the song. So eventually, it became that. But so the second night, I did that. And it was a Thursday and a Friday night. He did not call me after the Friday. And I was like, well, I guess that's that. And then Monday he called me and he asked me for references to just check that, I was worthy of employment and, I never stole money from people. Then he called me the next day. He's like, "Right, Tara, I've called all your references. They had horrible things to say about you." So I didn't know his sense of humor at the time. But he hired me over the phone. He offered me a 3-year contract. And I found out later that I had beat people from all over the country who had applied for the job. I beat somebody from ESPN who had applied. I beat people who had been in the industry for years, who had worked in major markets, all because he liked my delivery. And he told me exactly the moment that he knew I was the right person, which, I hold that in my heart because he said there was just this moment. I had to front sell a song that I had never heard before, which is weird, which is hard to do. And I know maybe you've been in that position too. Because I wasn't familiar at the time with Modest Mouse, which everybody knows Modest Mouse now. This is 2004 and they were more local and they weren't really known. And I didn't know the song. I didn't know what it sounded like. I didn't know what to say about it. So I just said, I was coming out of some other song and I said, "Here's the latest one from Modest Mouse. This is Ocean Breathes Salty. It sure does," on 94.7 FM. And Mark said, when he heard me say, "It sure does," he just knew that I knew how to talk to people.
Hey guys, Devin here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check out the links below for more great original content. Talk to you soon. Bye.